Good evening, everyone. I welcome you all on this session on Cosmetic Rules 2020. So ISCC, on behalf of ISCC, I would like to welcome all the participants, all the student members, all the life members for this session on Cosmetic Rules 2020. As we know that till date, cosmetics were governed under Drug and Cosmetic Act, and there was no separate regulations which existed specifically for cosmetics. It was always associated with drugs. So there were a lot of issues which were faced by cosmetic industries, which were faced by importers, which were faced by people who are retailing it. So there were a lot of questions in the mind of people who were actually in the cosmetic industry. And this led to several deliberations on the part of ministry. And after working for years on it, the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare notified the Cosmetic Rules 2020 on December 15th, 2020. So with this initiative of government has always been a welcome initiative for the cosmetic industry, though it has created a lot of questions in the mind of existing customers who are there and the industry professionals are there. Keeping in view these questions which are there in the mind of our industry people who are of our fraternity, we thought about having this program on webinar on Cosmetic Rules 2020. In this webinar, we have with us a very known person, Ms. Vrinda Rajwade, who is our speaker for this webinar, where she will be talking in depth about the Cosmetic Rules 2020. So I invite you all to join us for this webinar now, which will start in some time. But at the beginning, I would also like to tell the people, since we are starting the webinar with a question in mind that what will happen, how the rules are going to be. So I'm sure during the session, you are going to come up with a lot of questions which will be in your mind and which you would like to ask to her. So considering this, I would request you to put all your questions on the chat box, which is available there on the Zoom link. And taking this forward, I would like to say thanks, and I would like to invite Dr. Prasad Nabar to introduce our speaker for the day, Ms. Vrinda Rajwade. With that, I take your leave. Sir, up to you now. Dr. Nabar, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Renuka. Good evening, everybody. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce our distinguished speaker today evening, Vrunda Rajwade. Vrunda is a gold medalist B.Pharm from Mumbai University, and she also holds a master's in pharmaceutics from Mumbai University. She has worked in R&D and regulatory functions for the last 22 years. Her earlier first 12 years of career were at the erstwhile Sandoz Pharmaceuticals, a generic company of Novartis. She has rich experience in R&D formulations as well as analytical development for solid oral dosage forms. In Sandoz, she has also held leadership positions in the regulatory affairs functions, engaging with filing of several dossiers at the various international regulatory forums. Since last 10 years, she is working as a senior regulatory affairs manager in Hindustan Unilever for home and personal care products for South Asia. Her expertise is in regulations for drugs as well as cosmetics and personal care. She has a sound knowledge of South Asia regulations applicable for home care and personal care products. In the current job, she supports her regular research and development teams with guidance on applicable regulations, standards, and thereby helping her organization, Hindustan Unilever, in launching great products for consumer benefits. She is also a member of Bureau of Indian Standards in several technical committees on cosmetic soaps and detergents Unilever in effective advocacy initiatives. She is a member of the Indian Pharmacy Association and has presented several papers in the Indian Pharmaceutical Congress. And incidentally, she has won the Best Paper Award at the 50th Indian Pharmaceutical Congress held in Mumbai. So the stage is all set for Vrinda. It's all yours, Vrinda, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nabar, and thank you, Renuka ma'am. I will start with a vote of thanks, actually, to the organizers for organizing this session. It is important for the industry to understand and elaborate on the new rules which have been implemented. So it gives me pleasure to present to you in details about what these rules are, how they are either similar to the existing rules in some cases, or how they have been simplified even further to help the industry while keeping the safety of consumers in mind. Yeah. So I will just share my presentation and we can start. Is my presentation audible? Sorry, visible, and am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So, so the need of cosmetics to be separated out from drugs was feel for several years. It was on ongoing discussion, and the industry has been working with the authority to simplify the further on the cosmetic regulations. Yeah. So somewhere around 2016 is where there was a need, and the DTAB agreed to have a separate rule for cosmetics. Yeah. And further, towards the latest 3-4 years, the committee has been drafting the regulations, and industry has been interacting with the authority on improvising the draft, and finally the rules have been published somewhere in the month of December in the final gazette notification, which came out on 15th of December. Yeah. So it has not been a quick decision. It has almost had 5-6 years of work, both from industry end as well as authority end, to create this new set of regulations. Yeah. It has been enforced by the ministry from 15th of December 2020, and it's applicable to the same definition of cosmetics. Yeah. So whatever cosmetics have been defined as per the act are covered with these rules. Yeah. They have included a savings clause which is of prime importance, that in spite of the immediate implementation of the rules, the authority has given us a period of around 18 months or till the expiry of the current licenses or certificates, whichever is later. So the certificates remain valid for such a period, while any new applications and new certificates are to be done as per the new rules. Yeah. So this is a very important clause which will help the industry. I have put together a few salient features of the new cosmetic regulations here, and that is that they are consolidated and separated from the drug rules. Yeah. So if you see, the earlier drug rules had a mix and match of several different sections. Manufacturing was separate, labeling was separate, and there was probable confusion in understanding. But here we have a separate consolidated set of rules. There are simplified requirements for, especially in the case of labeling, or even in terms of validity of the rules or the licenses or certificates, because it is almost for everything, it is in perpetuity. Validation is in perpetuity. So they have simplified the regulations. A concept of new cosmetics has been included here, which I will touch base on. central cosmetics laboratory has been separated. So earlier it was the drug testing laboratory which was there. Now they have come up with the central cosmetic laboratory concept. The BIS standard for ingredients and finished cosmetics have been defined and mandated in the new rules. There are exception clauses for some of the cosmetics, and a new concept of voluntary recall has also been introduced in the new regulations, in the new rules. Yeah. The new rules are divided into chapters and schedules. So I'll quickly take you through what are these chapters, and I have put down the remarks where in some places it is replacing the existing regulation, or some places it is newly added. Yeah? So in the first chapter, it covers mostly the applications and definition of these new rules. Some examples that I would like to note are the definitions for change in constitution, new cosmetic, the central licensing authority, state licensing authority, and other few more definitions which are there. Yeah, I am not elaborating each and everything in this presentation, but I would request you all to go through the definitions in details because they are quite relevant for our functioning of the cosmetic industry. Yeah? The chapter 2 consists of the authorities, officers, and the applicable laboratory requirements. The roles of the central licensing authority and state licensing authority are elaborated. The timelines for testing samples by the government analyst is mentioned as 60 days here in these rules. Yeah? We will touch base a few of the requirements during the rest of the presentation as well, but this is just an overview. The import registration is covered in chapter 3 and replacing the chapter part 13 of the earlier rules. The manufacturing is covered in chapter 4. Permission to import new cosmetics is under chapter 5, wherein specifically a new provision has been included. This is with respect to new cosmetics, yeah, especially for manufacture or import of new cosmetics. Chapter 6 covers labeling packing standards. So this was more or less similar to the rule 148 of the existing drugs and cosmetic rules, but we will see there are a lot of simplification that has been introduced. Yeah? Chapter 7 covers sampling, test, and analysis of cosmetics, which doesn't have much changes from the earlier similar section on testing. The form numbers definitely have changed. Yeah. Chapter 8 covers the laboratory testing, the central cosmetic laboratory and the requirements for licensing, procedures to be followed, conditions for laboratory, cosmetic laboratory. It has been kind of similar to the drug testing laboratory, but it is separated out now, and there will be separate licensing procedures for cosmetic testing. And fees have also been mentioned. Yeah, and the chapter 9 talks about the miscellaneous rules, wherein even the saving clause is under this miscellaneous section. Yeah. Coming to schedules, so there are 13 schedules to this new rules. The first schedule talks about the authorization that has to accompany import registration. It was there as a part of import guidelines as well. Yeah. The second schedule has two parts, and I'm emphasizing this because the part 1 is more or less similar to schedule D3, which was for import regulation. We were already following it. But part 2 is another new thing that is there. It talks about information and undertaking to be furnished by the manufacturer along with the application for local manufacturing license or a loan license. Yeah. So there are certain requirements to be added during the licensing procedures, and the FDA officers, the state licensing authorities will definitely ask for these kind of undertakings and information. We will see about it in detail later. Yeah. In the third schedule, there is a list of fees applicable for different kind of licenses and permissions, most of which have been increased from the earlier rules, but they have elaborated the requirements clearly. The fourth schedule contains a list of categories which was earlier a part of the import regulatory guidelines. So it is more or less similar, no change in that. The fifth schedule refers to the test fees by the Central Cosmetic Laboratory. So each test they have defined what is the kind of fees that they would charge. Yeah. The sixth schedule is again something new because this is an undertaking for the import of cosmetics submitted by importer with application for import registration number of a new of a parallel import or a secondary importing of cosmetics. Yeah, so this is something new again which we will cover in the further in the presentation. Yeah, this is for second reports. The seventh schedule talks about GMP. So in our earlier drugs and cosmetic rules, the schedule M2 used to cover the GMP practices, but here they have included seventh schedule, more or less similar to schedule M2, but there are few updates that I will discuss. Yeah. The manufacturing records are similar to schedule U1, but covered under schedule 8. The ninth schedule again is very important because this is the copy of schedule S, which was there in earlier cosmetic rules, and it defines 37 categories with a new category of hair shampoo for babies, which has now been mandated. 10th schedule covers the colors, 11th good laboratory practices, 12th schedule covers exemptions, and 13 just captures the revisions that have been done from the earlier rules. Yeah. So this is the entire gist of what the chapters and schedules talk about. Now I'm focusing on few of the new requirements or new additions or important things to consider for the cosmetic industry. Yeah. I have listed two important definitions. One is the laboratory definition under cosmetic rules, which talks about central cosmetic laboratory, which has been established for carrying out the analysis or test of cosmetics under Rule 11. Yeah. And new cosmetic. A new cosmetic means a cosmetic which contains a novel ingredient which has not been used anywhere in the world or is not recognized for use in cosmetics in any national or international literature. Yeah. So there are requirements of new cosmetics, which we will see further on, but important to note that whenever a cosmetic contains such a novel ingredient, which we are using for the first time in India, it is not known for use in cosmetics anywhere in the world, then only that particular product will be considered as a new cosmetic and it will require licensing from the Central Licensing Authority. But if your ingredient is already being used in cosmetics elsewhere, we can share the reference with the authority and directly interact with the state licensing authorities for the licensing of such a product. Yeah. The Central Cosmetic Laboratory is responsible for analyzing or testing the cosmetics sent to it under the subsection of section 11 and section 25(4) of the Act. Yeah. It functions as an appellate laboratory and it also will carry out whatever testing. I mean, the samples which have been drawn out by the inspectors can be sent to the central laboratory for testing or any other specific assigned testing protocols to be done. It will be the responsibility of the Central Cosmetic Laboratory. Now, it has to be NABL accredited laboratory, and there are procedures for licensing of such laboratories, inspections that would be done, the conditions to maintain the license, the validity of the license, and all such rules which are covered under the chapter 8 of the said rules. Yeah. This is in principle, these are similar to the drug testing laboratory requirements. That's the reason I have not elaborating much on this, but it just has a separate set of forms to be applied with, a separate set of fees, and a separate set of laboratory requirements. Yeah. Which are there now applicable to cosmetics. Coming to chapter 3, which is one of the key important chapter regarding import registrations. Now, import registration earlier it is the rule 12 under the current rules, which talks about import registration, and the application has to be done in form cos 1 to the authority by the authorized agent. Yeah, mostly the authority is promoting digital applications. Therefore, online systems are implemented. Wherever such a, I mean, of course, import registration earlier as well, it was through online systems. And I understand while there were some hiccups earlier, now it is going smoothly as I understand. So we apply along with the information and documents that are a part of second schedule part 1, along with the fees. Now the fees have been reduced. The earlier import registration had a fees of $2,000 per category, but now the authority has considered the industry request and reduced the fees to 1,000 for each category, plus $50 for each variant and $500 for a different manufacturing site. The categories are listed as per 4th schedule, and the 9th schedule definitely talks about compliance with BIS standards. So that is a kind of country mandate, law of the land, that cosmetics coming to India need to comply with the BIS standards which are there. Yeah. And if there is sampling done, or if there is a need to do an overseas inspection, then the authority will ask for the fees to be paid for such inspection or testing by the applicant. Yeah. In case of import of bulk, there is a need of valid manufacturing license to be obtained from state licensing authority, and details of the registered brand owner in India to be submitted. And once the application is complete and it is reviewed by the authority, the grant of import registration license will be done in form cos 2 within a period of 6 months. There is a chance of appeal and further actions that can be done. In case of a new cosmetic, the applicant has to first obtain prior permission in form cos 3 from the central licensing authority and then apply for import registration. So form cos 3 will also be a part of the application in that case. The validity of import registration certificate is perpetual, provided the applicant submits a retention fee before completion of 5 years from date of issue. Yeah. In case of amendments of import registration, there is a need of fresh application in case of change of constitution, which needs to be done within 180 days. Yeah. Whereas if there is a change in only in the labeling, composition or testing, then information has to be submitted within 15 days of such change, with an undertaking that the product complies with the BIS standards as per 9th schedule. And in case there is a change in name or address of the registration holder, then the application for amendment has to be done within 60 days of such change. Yeah, so quite elaborate procedures are mentioned and need to be followed for import registration. Now, coming to one new entry that has been included, that is regarding secondary imports. So, other than the original importer, any applicant, any importer can actually, apply for imports through a form cos 4. Yeah, any already registered cosmetic, if it is there, then any importer can apply for this particular in form 4 with an undertaking as specified in the 6th schedule regarding the responsibility of that particular brand, and he can get the import. So the authority will grant him an import registration number in form cos 4A. Yeah. and it will be valid for a period of 3 years unless it is suspended or cancelled. Yeah. So by this way, already registered products can be brought into India and sold. This is something new because earlier it was not there. Now there are no fees mentioned for this kind of an activity. Just an undertaking to be submitted to the authority, taking the responsibility of the particular product being imported. Yeah. So this is kind of opening up to the importers in India. Coming to the prohibitory clause for importing certain cosmetics that are mentioned under Rule 18, which is more or less similar to what is even there currently, that cosmetic containing hexachlorophene cannot be imported, or those which are prohibited in country of origin cannot be imported. These are similar to current requirements. Just one thing to note is that no cosmetic shall be imported unless the use before date shown on the label is later than 6 months from the date of import. So I understand many organizations will have an internal protocol on how much shelf life to be retained before a product is imported. But now it is officially mentioned that the authority won't be allowing us to import such a product if the shelf life is less than 6 months. Yeah, from date of import. And of course, cosmetics tested on animals are not allowed to be imported in the country, which stays as is. So this was regarding imports. Now coming to chapter 4, which is considering local manufacture. The principles remain the same. Just a few new additions that I would like to focus on. Of course, the form numbers have changed, and the documents, a list of documents is what I will take you through. But the authority in the new rules has asked the applicants to upload a copy of the permission on the CDSCO website. That is one important thing. And that the state licensing authority will verify the information submitted through an inspection within 30 days post grant of license. Yeah. So these two aspects are very important for local manufacturing units to consider. The fees have been increased to 10,000 per category and rupees 500 for each additional item. And along with the normal documentation for the firm and the brand, there is a formula prescribed. There is a template prescribed for submission of formulation of the cosmetic. Then there is an undertaking as per part 2 of the second schedule that I talked about that needs to be submitted. This also talks about compliance with the BIS standards and the GMP certification. So the manufacturers also need to submit a GMP self-declaration in form cost 7 as a part of the documents to be submitted for licensing. So these are a few different things that are introduced in the new regulation. And once the submission is done, the license is granted within 45 days in form cost 8 or 9. And it will remain in validity till perpetuity, provided we pay the retention fees before completion of 5 years. Yeah. Similar to the import registration requirement of new cosmetic, even if we want to manufacture a new cosmetic locally, then the applicant has to obtain a prior permission in form cost 3 from the licensing authority. Yeah, before going for a manufacturing license. The conditions of the license in form cost 8 and cost 9 are more or less similar to the existing requirements, except that the licensing authority needs to be informed within a period of 30 days in case of any change in labeling or composition. So slight changes in the label and all, it can be done through an intimation to the authority along with a submission of an undertaking regarding compliance to BIS standards. Yeah. And the manufacturing units have to now keep an inspection book in form cost 11, so that you need to obtain and maintain at your site. Yeah. Most of the other thing remains same. Coming to the 7th schedule, which talks about the GMP requirements. Again, most of the GMP requirements with respect to the area and the equipments needed, the categories of product are similar to Schedule M2 of the Drugs and Cosmetic Act and Rules 1945. There are some additional things that are mentioned. There are discussions, there are rules around personnel having adequate experience and capabilities to be included, the maintenance of equipment, which has been mentioned clearly. There is a new clause for testing and release of raw materials and finished cosmetic products, which I have highlighted here with respect to the quality control aspects. Yeah. So the new rules clearly allow parametric release of raw materials and finished products, except for eye products, lipstick and dental products, subject to the conditions mentioned and provided robust validated procedures, SOPs are followed. Yeah. So the note under the schedule 7 schedule clearly states that each batch of raw material, finished product or in process parameters need not be required to be tested. However, it needs to be approved and released by quality control on the basis of standard operating procedures for parametric release. Yeah? So you can go through the 7 schedule in details before developing such an SOP, and basis your quality assurance protocols and the procedures followed, robust procedures followed to ensure safety, quality, from the raw materials and finished goods, you can use parametric release system. Only the exception is for eye products, lipstick and dental products, wherein each batch will have to be tested. So that's covering the manufacturing and import license. Now coming to the new cosmetic rule. We have already seen the definition of new cosmetics. So if we want to import or manufacture a new cosmetic, the first thing to do is file an application in Form Cos 12 to the Central Licensing Authority with the fee and data of safety and effectiveness. Yeah, so safety evaluation has to be done for such a cosmetic as per IS 4011, which is the safety testing protocol for cosmetics. Once we have this data, then we can submit the application. An authority will evaluate, review the data, and then once it is convinced of safety and effectiveness of the new drug, they will issue prior permission in Form Cos 3. Once we have the Form Cos 3, then we can either apply for an import registration application or we can apply for a local manufacturing application as the case may be. Yeah. This is important to note because each and every formulation will have to be evaluated in order to find out if it contains any novel ingredient per se. As long as it doesn't contain novel ingredients, then we can directly go to the state authority. But if it does contain a novel ingredient and need to be followed. Yeah. Coming to labeling, which is another important aspect, which is consumer facing and authority facing. The labeling requirements of local cosmetics, domestic products, is more or less similar to the existing labeling requirement, and I would say the existing labeling will mostly comply with the new rules as well. However, there are certain clauses wherein there is much more flexibility granted by the authority. So authority has considered the proposal from the industry and kind of expanded the reach. Yeah? So if you see for use before declaration, there are several different mannerisms in which this particular declaration is allowed. We can either mention use before or date of expiry or use by or expiry date in month and year, or we can mention expiry date XX months from manufactured or date of manufacturing or expiry date. Yeah. So several different renditions are allowed. The earlier rules only talked about use before in month and year. Yeah. The batch number also, earlier rules talked about only preceded by letter B. but now there are certain other options which are available. Similarly for manufacturing license number. Yeah. The rest of the things almost remain same as current labeling rules. Even the labeling regarding hair dyes or the fluoride containing toothpaste or other requirements of 1000 ppm fluoride to be maximum limit as per in toothpaste at all remains same as current rules. The prohibitory clauses regarding non-animal testing and avoiding false and misleading claims are also similar to the existing cosmetic rules. For export packs, so while for export pack, authority has requirements as per the country of export, but they have asked us to include the following details on labels, which includes the name of the cosmetic, the batch number, use before or expiry, name, address of manufacturer, the license number preceded by letters, license number or LIC number, and internationally recognized symbols wherever required. If the consignee does not want us to mention the name and address of manufacturer, then a special code which has been approved by licensing authority, or what we call neutral code in our colloquial language, can be mentioned on the packs. Yeah. So that was about labeling. Now coming to the ninth schedule, we talk. S has been translated to the ninth schedule, and it talks about different 37 different categories of cosmetics. The standards also define that raw materials specified under 4707 part 1 and 2 are to be referred. These are the ingredients used in cosmetics, so they are now officially a part of the rules. And the other criteria regarding mercury limits and absence of hexachlorophene and all remain same as the current rules. Coming to the exemption of cosmetics, so sale and distribution license is definitely exempted for cosmetics even in the new rules. Yeah. So it is only the manufacturing license which is a mandate to be followed. Yeah? Then there are certain hair fixers and mucilaginous preparations for men, used by men for fixing beards and all, which are exempted from the manufacturing license requirements. Then in case of imports, there are certain exception clauses given for bulk, which is used for repacking, for 100% export. Then those cosmetics which are for R&D purposes, or those for overseas passengers at duty-free shops, amenity kits for exclusive use by international passengers, or those imported for use in hotels for captive consumption. All these are kind of exempted from the import registration requirements, the import registration chapter. Yeah. Also, cosmetics which are imported as a kit. So if individual products of the kit are already registered for import in India, then there is no separate requirement for registration of the kit. But we should ensure that each and every individual component of the kit is registered. Coming to the last miscellaneous clause, miscellaneous chapter. So as I told you, the new concept of voluntary recall of cosmetics has been included. Wherever the manufacturer or importer feels that a certain cosmetic poses risk to the health of a user, or there is a safety concern on a certain cosmetic, then he can discuss and along with support from the licensing authority, the state licensing as well as the central licensing authority, he can take measures for withdrawal and recall of a particular cosmetic product. Yeah? This is very much a voluntary, and it is majorly based only on the safety concern of the cosmetic. Yeah? And then these are the certain forms which are important that I have listed. In wake of time, I will just go quickly to the last part, wherein I just want to highlight the summary of changes. So fee structure revision is definitely one which has been revised in the new rules. There is a time period that has been granted for licensing procedures. Yeah? So they need to do within 45 days after submission, they need to scrutinize the documentation, and they need to do an inspection within 30 days of submission of application. So that defines at least the licensing procedures. New cosmetics, as we just saw, are defined and the requirements are set. There is a requirement for safety as well as efficacy to be done, before submission of data to the central licensing authority. Then the timeline has been increased in terms of 1 to 180 days for fresh licenses in case of change in constitution, which was earlier restricted to 3 months. Now it is almost 6 months, which has been given to an overseas manufacturer. Yeah? And for local manufacturer, it has been extended to 180 days from 90 days, so which is good. There are more elaborative GMP requirements, and parametric release, as I just discussed, is allowed. GMP self-certification concept has been introduced as a part of licensing documents. The good laboratory practices are also defined in the 11th schedule. There are, under the 9th schedule, there is a note which talks about any new standard. GIS standard can become mandatory from maximum after 6 months from the date of gazette. Yeah. So any new standard, any new finished cosmetic standard that will come and gazetted will be mandatory for compliance maximum 6 months after the gazettation date. Yeah. The 9th schedule contains a new product, which is hair shampoo for babies, which have been now officially included. The concept of voluntary recall has been introduced. There are a few changes in the labeling, mostly in terms of simplifying or giving more options for the industry to label as per their capabilities, factory capabilities. Validity of licenses is more or less perpetual across all the different kinds of licenses or permission fees every 5 years. Then cosmetic kits have been exceptionally granted permission, provided each individual product is already registered. The import of cosmetics already registered by CDSCO. So this is the secondary imports that are now being allowed, which will be having a validity of 3 years. But this is opening up time for other importers rather than the original importers. And that's it from my end. Now I'll be opening up for Q&A. So.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah. So I request all to post your questions in the chat box so we can take a few questions as we have some time. Okay, I have one question here. What mandates are needed for licensing with respect to BIS standard compliances?
Okay. So BIS standards are available for finished cosmetic products. The list of same is available in the 9th schedule. Yeah. So as I mentioned, there are 37 cosmetics currently which are mentioned, and it is mandatory to comply. And within these 37 standards, there are references to BIS standards for raw materials as well. Yeah. And if you see the licensing requirement, the format itself, which is there under Form Cos 5, it mentions a particular table wherein the name of the cosmetic is to be mentioned, the name of the ingredients are to be mentioned, and along with it, specifications or standards or grade of ingredients are to be mentioned. So whatever BIS standards are relevant, those are to be referred, and those raw materials need to comply to the relevant BIS standards. For example, there is a BIS standard for talc. So if it is a skin powder and you use talc as a raw material, then you need to comply to the BIS standard for talc as a raw material, and the FG, the finished good, will also have to comply to the BIS standard for skin powder. So that references are to be mentioned in the table. That is one part of it, along with the percentage of ingredients and the function of each ingredient. Yeah, so BIS is one part. And along with this, the second schedule, part 2, part 1 and part 2. Part 1 is for import registration and part 2 is for local manufacturing. Both of these, so second schedule has a list of information and undertaking to be furnished to the licensing authority for grant of license. Yeah. So it is important for all the manufacturers to go through this second schedule, and whatever is listed in this second schedule has to be submitted. Yeah. Once the application is complete, then the authority will grant the license. I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you so much. We have one more question. Are there any amendments in repacking licenses?
Repacking license as a concept is actually not defined under the act or the rules. Yeah, what we define is manufacture. So if you see the Drugs and Cosmetics Act, there is a definition for manufacture, and all the activities regarding, you know, blending, mixing, filling, packing, labeling, everything are defined under the purview of manufacture. And there is only one license, which is the manufacturing license, which is granted. So I would say there is no change in this concept. It remains manufacture and manufacturing license only.
There's another question. What is the minimum ml size below which MRP is not mandatory? I think you already answered it in your slide.
MRP actually is not defined by the cosmetic rules. The MRP related rules is under legal metrology. So Drugs and Cosmetics Act or Cosmetic Rules 2020, or even the BIS standards, the MRP is not a part of these regulations. It will be a different regulation altogether.
Could you please? Yeah, please. Sorry.
Just one thing that I would like to note is in the labeling clause, that is Rule 34. There are certain exceptions for labeling in terms of ingredient listing. For example, the ingredient listing below 30 gram of solid, semi-solid, or 60 ml of liquid has been exempted. Yeah, or for that matter, even batch number is exempted for those packs which are less than 10 gram of solid or semi-solid and less than 25 ml of liquid. So there are certain exceptions basis the size, pack size, with respect to labeling rules.
There's another question. Could you please elaborate the raw material testing mandates or amendments, if any?
Okay, so this is about the 7th schedule. So if you see the manufacturing license, the conditions of license, which talk about that each licensee shall test each batch of raw materials used for manufacturing of cosmetic and shall maintain records for a period of 3 years from the date of manufacture. Yeah, this is a clause of the conditions of a license. And further on, if you see the 7th schedule, which is the GMP schedule, there is a requirement for testing and release of raw materials. So the quality control systems should be established to ensure that the product contains the correct materials with the specified quality and quantity and are manufactured under proper conditions as per the SOPs. Yeah. Now, quality control procedures will involve sampling, inspecting, testing of raw material, packaging material, in-process controls, intermediate controls, or bulk as well as finished products. And that parametric release procedures for raw materials can be adopted, provided there are vendors of raw materials which are approved and such procedures which are robust, validated, based on trends of earlier testing experiences. So as long as we have those kind of procedures in place in the organization, we can follow parametric release procedures.
Thank you. We have another good question here. For import of cosmetics, what will be the impact of allowing secondary importers to bring in products, and how will they get information regarding registrations?
Yeah, so this is a common question, I guess, that many of us have, that how will they get information? So currently, the import registration procedure started around 2013, and almost till 2016, 2017, the authority used to display a list of RC numbers. So probably the authority would such RC numbers it out on their online systems, from where the other importers will get to know of what are the already registered cosmetics. Once they get the information of what are already registered cosmetics, then they need to apply to the authority in the particular form which is there listed under the Rule 17. And then they also have to give an undertaking as per the 6th schedule, wherein they will take the responsibility of the product they are importing. Yeah. So if you refer the 6th schedule, it says that the manufacturer, the importer who will import the particular cosmetic product, and if there is a some directions from the licensing authority regarding certain non-compliance, then the importer, such an importer, will stop further sale. He will recall the products, he will take the responsibility and follow the directions of the licensing authority. The importer also has to maintain books and records of whatever he has been importing, and if there is any testing done, then he has to bear the fees of that testing as well. Yeah. And he should allow inspectors to inspect his records. So even if it is a parallel imports or a secondary imports being done, they will be responsible for the products being imported through this 6th schedule undertaking.
There are quite a few questions. How relevant is this? Any new amendments for clinical trials?
No, currently the cosmetic rules are silent on clinical trials for cosmetics, and there is nothing in the new rules on this behalf.
Another question: is there any change or update on the minimum area requirements for different categories of the manufacturing unit?
Requirements are similar to the existing Schedule M2.
One question, I don't know whether it will be clearly applicable here. We import iodine for manufacturing. What kind of license to be required?
Is it used for cosmetic product then?
Yeah, we can answer only if it is related to cosmetics.
Yeah, mostly a drug related.
Yes. So that's it. We have done with the questions. Maybe I request the participants, if they can post, we can maybe answer them later as well. So now I invite our Vice President, Dr. Suhas Nantuldikar, to offer the vote of thanks. Over to you, Dr. Nantuldikar.
Thank you very much, Ms. Vrunda Rajwade, for elaborate deliberations on the cosmetic rules 2020. I think there are a lot of takeaway for the industry people. First of all, new cosmetic definition, that is Rule 32. Then BIS standard for ingredients and cosmetics. Then there is also various schedules from 1 to 13, import registration license. Also the new rule about the secondary imports, shelf life of the imported products, new rules for local manufacturers, additions to export of cosmetics, new concepts for the recall of cosmetics when you are exporting. So there are a lot of details which you have covered. I think on behalf of Indian Society of Cosmetic Chemists, our management committee as well as governing body, we thank you for your presentation. We also thank you all the participants and their interactions during the course of presentation or lecture. I thank you, Dr. Renuka, Shailendra, as well as Prasad Nabar for his contribution, and also Mr. Patil for providing the Zoom link. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, I think we can leave, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Vrunda.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Vrunda.